Coming up next on the Church Pew Sports Podcast, it's our season finale. We're talking about how the transfer portal is ruining the bowl game system and the long-awaited full review of the Kansas City Chiefs Christmas Hallmark movie, as submitted by the guy who lost our season-long college football picks. Congratulations or condolences to Brian, and his review is straight ahead. It's hard to believe that we are welcoming you into the season finale of Church Pew Sports as we are winding down our fourth year. We'll take a little break for the holidays, come back in January, hopefully to find out that enough of you have cast your votes, as we were nominated for one of the best sports podcasts in the marketplace today. So we would certainly appreciate it if you would kind of chip in and cast a vote on our behalf. All that information is in the podcast notes, and we're going to have some fun today. Bill Hobson here, along with Pastor Paul Miller, as always. And Paul, I don't know if your Christmas shopping is completed. I don't know if your travel plans are all in place or what's happening in your world, but this has been quite a wild ride in 2024.
Yes, it definitely has. I'm glad that college football has been as interesting as it's been, because it's been one nonstop headline after another. And 2024 has just been crazy, ending with what you just alluded to, Bill, that we're like up for some award. Like I can handle losing to Scott Van Pelt because he's pretty good. But if we lose to the Kelsey brothers, that's gonna be hard to take.
I'm fairly certain we will, because
Yeah.
they have an external force on their side, I think, for votes like this. So if quantity matters, we don't have a chance. However, if quality matters, then maybe we'd like to hope so. We've got a couple of
is a good thing, maybe the
Yes.
best of things, right?
We have a couple of guests with us. Joining us from Duke University, he's been with us a few times before, is Josh Gilmer, who just moments ago finished his final for the semester in what topic, Josh?
It's in clinical neuroanatomy.
Yeah. And Paul, if you and I were to take the same test that Josh just took, how do you think we would do on the hundreds, the perfect score? Where are you coming in on? Say that again, Josh.
Neuroanatomy.
Neuroanatomy.
Yeah, I'm not thinking that either of us would do that well on the final, though I do have a question for Josh about finals in general. I just found out that my daughter, who's a sophomore at the University of Houston, had a religion class, a world religions class, and she was getting an A in the class, and then she took her final online, and the professor decided that she got 100 on the online final, but the professor decided after the fact that she wanted everybody to take the final in person, and my daughter was already gone on a missions trip, so now she gets a F on her final, which drops her grade to a D for the class. And I'm trying to figure out what I should say to her. Do I take the hard line and say you need to fight your professor and fight for your grade, or do I just say I'm proud of you and go on your missions trip and I'll see you after Christmas? What's the best move here?
Well, I would just argue with the professor. I feel like if they said that, I already made my plans. They have a syllabus set. You got to follow that. They can't just do whatever they want.
I agree with you.
Paul, just a quick side question. Are we 100% sure that the version of the story you've been given is the correct version of the story?
Well, yeah, my whole life spent parenting college students and high school students has been, I have always chosen to believe what they tell me
Yeah, good.
until they give me a reason to not believe what they tell me. And my daughter's never given me a reason to not believe her. So I'm choosing to say I'm choosing to believe that she's telling me the whole story, and we're just going to go with that.
Well, at some point, it may be time to call professor and just say, hey, dude, what are we doing? I'm paying good money for this. So
Exactly.
our fourth guest on the program today, we're going to let him talk about a whole lot of topics outside of his primary responsibility for the show today. But his primary responsibility for the show today is to deliver a long-awaited, much-anticipated review of this special production.
Saturday, November 3rd now. For the first time ever, Hallmark and the Kansas City Chiefs. Whoa, leave it. Oh, on the field.
How about those
Chiefs? Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story. All new Saturday, November 30th. Part of Countdown to Christmas. Only on Hallmark.
That's just
Holiday
painful.
touchdown,
Painful.
a Chiefs love story. Brian Sharpe is with us having, Paul, why don't you kind of paint the picture for everybody as to how Brian ended up with this prestigious assignment to review that.
I feel like I need to lead with saying that Brian is one of my favorite people that I've met since I took my role with the EFCA. I love this guy. He's becoming a dear friend, maybe even a brother. And we started on the podcast here. Brian was a guest on the podcast. We were talking about Bills Mafia, but we started making NCAA picks every week. We pick 5 games that seemed to be interesting. And then Bill, you, myself, David Collins, Carson Greenhaw from Denver, and then Brian, we would all make 5 picks, and we kept track of our standings throughout the entire season. So the regular season just ended, and I'm not going to run down the final standings because I just finished 1 spot above Brian. But I will tell you that Brian came in last place. Well done, sir. And the reward for finishing last is that Brian had to watch the Hallmark Kansas City Chiefs Christmas movie and come on and give us a review. So that's how we got to where we are today. Welcome, Brian. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It gave me an opportunity to watch a Hallmark movie with my wife, which happens a lot during this time of year.
Better you than me.
Would we be better off offering you congratulations or condolences on your finish in the prediction contest?
First of all, I came into this knowing that I wasn't going to do that well because, I don't follow college as ardently as you guys do. And the way that I picked obviously didn't work. And it's a cautionary tale of just going with what a certain website bet type thing tells you is the number one. Oh, hey, these people are favored. You should bet on these guys. Yeah, I did. And I lost. So you can't follow those websites.
Hey, just by the way, just for clarification, nobody bet anything. This was just all straight up predictions. So I don't want to have our audience thinking, wait, this is Church Pew Sports. You can't be gambling. Josh, there in the dorms at Duke University, how often, as you're walking down the hallway, either after a late night study session or after hanging out in the tent to get basketball tickets or whatever it is, how often could you hear emanating from various rooms the sounds of various students watching the Chiefs Hallmark movie?
I can't say I heard very many, if any.
That's good to know.
We are going to save that for a little bit further into the program. So be sure you stay with us. I cannot wait to hear what Brian's got in store for us. Let's cover some other topics. First of all, in the world of sports, as we wind down 2024, over the weekend was one of my favorite traditions of all time. It's on my bucket list to someday attend the Army-Navy game. I need to issue an official Bill Hobson Church Pew Sports retraction because as recently as last week, I was a little irritated that Army hadn't made it into the playoff just because of their record. And then I watched a good portion of that game, saw Navy completely dominate that game, and it was really cool. But for me, and probably for you guys, the pregame pageantry is every bit as much a reason to watch the game as the actual competition, including what I think, I didn't even realize this tradition existed. This is the exchange, the Army-Navy exchange. It's explained within this soundbite.
The tradition where 8 cadets and 8 midshipmen are traded back to their respective branches after spending this past semester living and learning at the other's institution. And they often have a message on the back of their coats. Looks like AAC champs for Army. You think they have any mixed feelings with their new friends?
This started in 1945. It was only a week. And now it's a semester.
And we get to see their fast twitch muscles in action in just a moment.
And by the way, all the cadets and midshipmen in the audience have stood up for this moment because now they get to welcome back their classmates.
Yeah, just to kind of paint some more of the visual, the 8 from each academy line up at midfield, facing each other in a row. And then when some signal is given, they literally sprint to their own academy sections in the stadium, and they're welcomed back in. I didn't even know that existed. That is incredibly cool. And I'm wondering 2 things. One, how that same concept might work in the church world. Right. So, we send Paul over to the neighboring church for a semester, and we send their pastor over this way. And then there's this big, and maybe the elder board goes with them, maybe. So there's this whole exchange. And then you have this returning of the hostages, so to speak.
Yeah, let's put Brian on the spot completely, because now that I work for a denomination, right, I'm not actually employed by a single local church, but Brian is a local church pastor. I'm wondering what would be the criteria that would make you excited about spending a semester at a different church doing what you do. What would be the things that would make you say, yeah, I'll sign up for that?
I think if that church was further along in its development or size difference and the next stage up, so that I could learn just the inner workings and, what are things you have to do to, at that stage. So that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, the one when you talked about exchanging, like I guess in the church, closest thing would be internships where, you raise up students and then you send them off in internships to another church to learn. So I could see that, but switching elder boards, that would be weird.
You probably have a semester's worth of things you would like to talk about your current elder board that you could, like, you would have to have some kind of disclaimer that, like, everything that you say about your current church at the church you're at for a semester is going to remain confidential. You took a very serious approach to that question. I thought you were going to say, like, I would love to have my own parking spot. I would love to have weekend use of the private jet and whatever else, that kind of stuff.
I like
well, the churches that I'd probably be switching with wouldn't have the private jets or the parking spots.
I like the idea of doing this exchange, and you adopt the policy of the town where Josh Gilmer actually lives, which is Vegas, which is everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Now, Josh, if I take the same principle of the service academies and I apply it to a Duke student, and now instead of an academy, you've got to go to North Carolina for a semester and do an exchange there. How does that picture look?
Well, actually, the first thing that's coming to my mind is Roddy Gale, the Michigan player from Ohio State. Thinking about he actually just switched sides.
Right.
And in that instance, it's okay because he's fully adopted. In the Duke UNC thing, it depends on, are you staying there? What do you think when you come? If you come to Duke and you realize that we're right, it's chill. If you go to UNC and you switch their side, then I guess you were never supposed to be a Duke in the first place.
Yeah. The question for Josh would have to be, the question we have to ask you has to be, what university in this country would you as a Duke student feel was an upgrade for you for a semester? Is there any? There has to be at least one.
Like, finally.
It depends in like what way you were thinking about it. Because if we're thinking about the academics, athletics, like togetherness, then I can't say there is. But if I'm supposed to focus on one specific aspect isolated, I'm sure you could argue that like there would be an upgrade in one of those ways.
For example,
I would say that a place like Stanford or Harvard is on the same tier, but could argue would be an upgrade. Athletics, I mean, I've always wanted to have, well, Michigan football. There we go, right there. I want a football school. So
we're trying to get you to say the area in which Duke is vastly inferior, and it took you a long time to get there, Josh.
I don't know that
we went 9-3. They're coming.
That's fair. That is fair.
Okay, so what do you think about, speaking of trades, like Malik Murphy is gone. And what's the dude's name? Like Darius Mensa or something like that? Like,
Yeah,
you now have a
Darian
quarterback named,
Mensa.
you now have a QB named Mensa. That makes sense to me at Duke. He's from like Tulane, I think, right? Did Duke upgrade or did they take a step back at QB?
I would say that it was an upgrade. I was not a Malik Murphy fan from the beginning. I also I have very mixed feelings about how the season went. 9-3 on paper, very good. On the eye test, we looked very bad. But also, if you look at the losses we had, they were very good. So I really don't know what to think.
Hmm.
But I do know that I was not a big Malik Murphy fan. This guy came in right away. Like the moment he transferred, he knew he was going to Duke. So that gives me hope. That makes me hopeful. I think it was the right thing.
You're not alone, Josh, in wondering what a good loss is versus a bad loss and a good win versus a win that doesn't help you very much. Last week we were getting ready to see the unveiling of the brackets, and we were talking about all of that stuff, and there's so many elements of it that they don't have any clear logical definition to them. And we're not alone in that assertion because the head football coach at Indiana University a little bit confused himself.
We lost to the second-ranked team on the road. Penn State lost to the fourth-ranked team at home. Texas lost to the fifth-ranked team at home. Boise lost to the seventh-ranked team. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. And SMU lost to an unranked team at the time they played. So how are we not right now seeded for a home game? That's what I want to know. We got the largest margin of victory in the country. Okay, take out the FCS and the G5, right? P4 only. We're outscoring people 40-17, second in the country. So because our name is Indiana and not Michigan,
Pretty much.
we're ninth.
That's one of those things.
What's Michigan catching strays for here? We're not a part of this conversation, but Paulie's kind of got a point.
He does have a point, and it makes me wonder, like, if Ohio State had not lost to an unranked, unnamed team at the end of their regular season, would Indiana's loss to Ohio State have carried more weight in the minds of the CFP voters? I don't know. It's so random. It felt random how they put it all together, but I don't think Signetti's wrong about anything he's saying. He's a bit of a homer because it is Indiana, and nobody in their right mind would say, well, Indiana, Alabama, who are you going to take on a neutral field? You're taking Alabama, right? That's kind of a given, but he's not wrong in any of the things he just said.
So if we get to the point where one of us, or perhaps all of us, collects together our resources, maybe we can purchase our own college football team. That's the conversation that's been kind of hypothetically thrown around a bit because the players are all being purchased. The universities are at a complete loss for how to handle this new world order of NIL money, and we'll talk about transfer portal here in a moment. The former owner of the Milwaukee Bucks is a fairly wealthy man. His name is Mark Lazary, and this wasn't just some off the top of his head rambling moment in front of the mirror. This was in a symposium talking about the future of sports, and he says this.
You're going to see a number of schools selling their teams. And the reason for that...
To whom?
To folks like us.
Billionaires.
Like, we're bidding on a couple teams, I can't tell you. But in essence, what we would do is buy 51% of the team. And, I think if you look at a bunch of these programs, they're making 50, 100 million off of their football program, off of their basketball program.
Okay, so where are we going here? Brian, when you hear that, what comes to your mind?
Add money, add corruption. We already don't understand how the committee's picking which teams go. And these picks, there's lots of money to be had with advertising and stuff like that. And so I think you're just begging more corruption, and you're losing like kids going from one school to the next school to the next school to the next school. Where can I get the most money? And so over the next 4 years, I can just up myself and just keep getting more and more NIL money. Like, I don't think it's good for the game. And like, how do you do that as a coach? We've already seen in basketball, NCAA basketball, one major coach stepped down because like, I can't do it because of this money.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? As you were talking, Brian, I was thinking about one of my mentors from my early days in ministry left the church we were serving at together and went to plant a church. And I was talking to him a couple years into that journey, and he was in a situation where he had one donor, one giver in his congregation who was giving, I think it was like 85% of the money to the church. There was just it was a billionaire who was attending their church, who was giving these massive tithe checks every week. And he was telling me about my friend, my boss, my former boss, who was the senior pastor of this church plant, was telling me how he was going to have a conversation with this donor about how that didn't buy him the right to tell him how to run the church.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, Paul, I think it's going to potentially be the end of our church, because if he decides that he's done giving because I don't allow him to attach strings to his donations, then I think we might be done. Right. And so there's like a thing in play here. Like the snarky part of me, Bill, when you bring up this topic is I'm like, well, didn't that already happen to Michigan? Like some guy just came in and bought them their quarterback. So does he now think, like, what if Bryce Underwood comes in and he's not the man? Like what does Sharon Moore say to that guy at that point when he says, I'm taking my money and I'm going home? That's the danger in the situation. Now that's a level down from like someone flat out saying they're buying the program and they now own. Like, what are they going to now hire and fire the AD and the coaching staff and decide who merits a big NIL check? Since NIL is not for recruiting, right? All the things. It's what could possibly go wrong, right? What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, Josh, what could possibly go wrong?
So many things could go wrong. I am Michigan through and through, but I am not a Bryce Underwood fan. I will root for Michigan. I do not like the way that all happened. I think it was slimy. I think if you got to pay a guy that's 20 minutes down the road to come, he clearly doesn't want to be there. And I think that's enough for me. I think the NIL and the transfer portal, the two together, because when the NIL first came around, I was thinking about the basketball side and I was like, well, maybe this will help with the one and done thing because you can have people that'll make way more money in college than they will in the NBA and they might stick around. But then you add the transfer portal aspect, and then it just gets out of hand. So it is a little bit of like, we didn't know what we were getting into when we asked for these things, and now it's just too far out of control.
So it's almost like the unregulated, unfettered access to money is a negative. Go figure. Whoever saw that coming? So when we think about this concept of venture capital or Shark Tank moments, and this time they'd be bidding on somebody's football program. Hey, Sharks, my name is Bill. I'd like your support for 51% of the Wolverine football program. In exchange, I'm going to share in 51% of all the revenues. I'm going to get to make some of the decisions, or at least speak into the decisions.
Right.
None of this makes any sense. But as you could hear in the comments made by the gentleman Lasry, he wasn't joking around. There was not laughter in the room as he said that, right? There was genuine inquisitiveness from the moderator who said, and who would actually own the team? Well, we would.
Yeah.
Brian, would you be troubled at all by the idea of your favorite college team being owned by a VC firm that decided to invest in student athletes?
Because you go from it being about students then to be about revenue. And granted, revenue's been a part of this for a long time, especially in football and basketball. But there's other sports that, what do you do with volleyball? What do you do with gymnastics? What do you do with all these other sports that just don't have the same type of following or same cap and ability to make money? So yeah,
all the non-revenue sports, right?
Yes,
all the non-revenue sports.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden these people are like, I want this one, not this one. So okay, well, I get football and basketball, but I don't want anything to do with baseball or hockey. And you're like, wait a minute, like when is it about the school and the students and the whole student body versus just these programs?
Yeah, imagine. Yeah. Okay. So, Josh, you're in this, right? I mean, you have slept in the tents outside Shashevskyville to get tickets. The heart, the spirit, really, of college athletics as a student, as a fan, and as somebody who thinks through these things I think, on a pretty deep level, is all of this talk, buying teams, NIL money, the bizarre transfer portal that we'll talk about in a moment. Is any of this diminishing your enjoyment as a student for all of this? Because as a old guy fan of it, it really is kind of taking away my enjoyment of it.
Yeah, I think that it is a little bit interesting because you only get to be a student once. So this is my first time ever like experiencing the sports aspect as being somebody at the school. But I do know that when I compare it to before I was in school, it was a lot more interesting to see the investment of the players, how like committed people were to their teams. I think the transfer portal right now with everybody leaving before the bowl games, it's just a big mess. It makes me really sad to see that like nobody really cares about their team. Like, and I don't really know what the solution is because I think that
Yeah.
I see both sides of the problem, but like it's very heartbreaking to see that you can't really get anybody to rally behind their team and commit to them through thick and thin. And I also think too, the other point of like all these other non-revenue sports, like I was talking with people in some of my classes who were like on the volleyball team and they do their own fundraising. Like Duke is a
Right.
big program, but like they have to do their own fundraising to go to like little small tournaments across the state. Like it's out of hand. I don't know.
And I just wonder how much of a cultural thing we're creating. Because if there's a lack of commitment and I don't get my own way, so now I'm going to go to this other school that will give me what I want. Oh, they're not giving me what I want. Oh, I'm going to go to another school. And how much are we breeding culturally into athletics, but also into the greater culture, into I don't fight hard. I just whine and complain. And when I don't get what I want, I go somewhere else.
Hmm.
I
Ohio State.
agree. I agree as a person of the generation. So it's a little bit weird for me to say it because I guess I'm being hypocritical in that because it's people my age. But like I agree. I think that people need to be willing to, okay, I don't have the job. I guess I'll work harder. I'm not going to UNC now because Duke's too good. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was thinking about Ohio State last year. Ohio State football had, I think it was 9 guys enter the portal this year in January, the January portal cycle or whatever. This year, 5 of those 9 are back in the portal.
Wow.
Yes.
Right? Think about that. Right? And a couple of them kind of the word on the street is to Ohio State fans is they kind of reached back out to see if they would be welcomed back to Ohio State, and it's like, yeah, goodbye. No, that's not happening. And then Ohio State had their 5 quarterbacks this year, and one of them, Devin Brown, the backup, said announced he's transferring, but he's going to wait until after the CFP is over, so he doesn't leave the team hanging. And he's being hailed as a hero because Aaron Noland also entered the transfer portal, and he's just like, peace out, I'm done. And so Devin Brown, like everyone's like, that's so noble of him to stick around
Hero.
in
He's a
case
hero.
he needs to help in the college football playoff or whatever. And I'm like, boy, this is, mess around and find out, right? This is what we get.
Well, meanwhile, at We Are Marshall, the
Yeah.
entire team decided we aren't Marshall anymore, and they all entered the portal because
Yeah.
they wanted to apparently they want to go where their coach was just hired. I don't remember where he's going, but he left Marshall, and they all decided, well, we'll just go too. And this portal is literally as easy as walking out your front door. There are players who are in a revolving portal door, and this is kind of a lesser important consequence of all of it because I'm not really that big a fan of the bowl game system anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But can you imagine being the sponsor that just ponied up, let's say $5 million for the Poulan Weed Eater Bowl or the whatever ReliaQuest Bowl that Michigan and Alabama are playing? That's not ReliaQuest. Whatever it is, whatever their bowl game is. Can you imagine being the sponsor who has kicked in all the money for those bowl games outside of the playoff system? And now
It's like a spring game.
having to come to realize that for many fans, they're not going to travel because why would I go watch a spring game and cost myself airfare and hotel money and tickets and all that? They're going to be eating these tickets. They're not going to get the TV numbers that they had thought they were paying for when they got for the advertising value. And the portal somehow, I don't have any idea how this happened. Somehow the portal was allowed to be open before the bowl games were played. It's perhaps the dumbest policy idea I've ever heard of in organized sports. The portal is a bowl game killer.
Transfer portal is what's ruined the smaller bowl. With the exception of the college football playoff, the transfer portal has destroyed it. It's everywhere. You think they were doing cartwheels in Lubbock last night because they're going to play Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl? Of course not. They couldn't care less because they don't even know what their team's going to look like. You're asking fans to be interested in something that they have no understanding of, other than the team with their logo is going to play a team with a different logo. I think the fact that guys are going into the portal left and right immediately before the bowl announcements, I just think the bowl announcements are anticlimactic. I don't think they make people feel that that's the real state of their program anymore, unless they're in the playoff.
So, Josh, you gather with all of your fellow whatever that are studying together, and then you go get your sports administration majors if they have that at Duke, if it's not too frivolous of a pursuit, and then you get all the most brilliant student minds together and fix this for us. How would you change what this portal looks like so that it's not so bizarre and unregulated?
Well, I do think the first thing, I was actually talking to my dad about this like yesterday or 2 days ago, was the transfer portal being open before the bowl games does seem like a glaring red flag because it kills the bowl games. But at the same time, you need to allow these people to, if they are going to transfer, you need to give them time to transfer before the next semester starts. So in that respect, I don't really know what the solution would be, because you do have to give them time to get to the new school if this is the way that things are going. And I do think that we need to keep it for like in the instance of the Marshall situation. I don't like that the whole team left, but I do remember us having this conversation 2 years ago when we were talking about Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly packing up their bags and saying, like, it's not fair for these players to be stuck here. And so I just think that this is a very big convoluted situation of, no matter what you do, there's some problem somewhere. And it's just a matter of deciding what we value the most and what problems we're willing to put up with. And I would say that I'd much rather go back to the old problems, but obviously then you have the people saying that's not fair to the players. And so you don't want to be taking advantage of them either. But at the end of the day, it is also business. So,
well,
Don't you just
go ahead, Brian?
don't you just if you go back to the old way, just give more stipends that look a little better than what they were complaining about before? And like when you talk about when the portal should open, if we're talking about student athletes, shouldn't it be at the end of the school year?
You would think, right? Like the only thing that I've heard that makes any sense to me is that I was hearing some guy talk about this, and he was suggesting that you limit the number of transfers that a student gets. Like maybe you say you can transfer once or twice during your college career. And then maybe you say, because then you're not frivolous, you're not just jumping. Maybe one is all you need to have, right? And then you say, and you also have to commit for 2 years. So if you sign with a school right out of high school, and after 1 year you say, this isn't happening for me, I'm transferring, you have to sit out a year before you can play at the next school. And that's your one shot. So, and unless you're going to be Cam Rising from Utah and you're going to play 9 years of college football or something like that, maybe that's a solution that might work. But there are going to be people that, now that those freedoms have been given, there are going to be people that are going to be complaining about that and grumbling and saying, no, you know what? It's like, you're restricting me again. And we're like, yeah, we are kind of sorry.
Right. I completely agree. I think it's just like, I mean, it used to be if you left, you sat out a year unless you graduated because, you actually went there and you got a degree and you did the thing and you went what you were supposed to do. And so, like, I don't see a problem in rewarding that. If your coach leaves, that's fine too. But I think just to say, yeah, you can leave because you're not playing enough, that's how you fix the problem. You say you got to stick it out. You got to fight for your job.
Or do we fix the problem by saying, hey, remember that era back when you used to have to sit out for a year when you transferred? That's the new rule. Feel free to transfer as many times as you want, but you're not playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're burning.
How much is this, though, moving us towards a collective bargaining agreement?
Totally.
Yeah.
because like you look at major, NFL, NBA, MLB, it's all about the collective bargaining agreement. So now if all this money's coming in, if people are going to buy, programs, there's going to have to be a collective bargaining agreement between them. And this is how we decide on playoffs. This is how much you can pay players. And it's just going to end up being just a minor league theater system, which it is, but with way more regulation. So the very thing they don't want, they're going to get. And isn't that life?
Yeah.
Right. I was
Yeah.
having a conversation the other day with my friend about this too, because I was saying, like, the other issue that we run into with this NIL thing is the bigger schools getting bigger, the smaller schools getting smaller, and there's no regulation sort of thing. And I'm not necessarily a big proponent of all the money and the moving around and whatnot, but like I do think the closest thing to a salary cap, you say, okay, this is how much the schools can spend, schools can do it directly, but at least you're evening the playing field a lot more. And I think that would be a good first step if this is the direction we're going.
One last word on this topic, and that is one of you, I think Brian mentioned that the idea of the revenue is driving all of this, and we know that. The irony to me is that the portal system is so cannibalizing the entire bowl system that their pursuit for revenue is self-defeating. They're not going to get the First of all, you watch some of these bowl games that you have not really heard of, that you don't really care that much about, but just tune into them for a minute and a half and see if the TV network, whichever one is covering it, ever does a wide shot of the stadium to show you all the seats.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be an awful lot of fans there dressed as chairs. So the revenue side of it, along with, in-person ticketing and then the TV ratings for these bowls where nobody's playing in them, it's not going to work. And so eventually those sponsors, those corporations are going to say, well, we could pour this much into Instagram ads and probably alert the whole world to our presence. We don't need to be pouring this into student athletes who aren't students anymore. When's the last time you heard anybody talk about, except for on this podcast about 3 minutes ago, talk about these kids need to get to their new campuses in time to enroll?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's literally been no mention of that at any level, except for kind of a sidebar comment here. Okay, I don't want time to get away from us because we still have the Kansas City Chiefs movie review. But one quick question for you, especially for Josh and myself. This on Sunday afternoon, my wife and I sat in the seats at Ford Field that are owned by Randy and Michelle Gilmer. We used their season tickets to go watch the Lions and the Bills. Crazy game, video game, Lions lose. Okay, we get all that, but more Lions are injured. They just keep on being injured. It's incredible how many of these guys are going down. Pre-game show, Dan Campbell is on with CBS Sports, and they're asking him what gritty is.
You're inside the conference. We're out here. Would you call us gritty?
Yeah,
We're a little gritty out here, are we?
You guys are all wearing jackets. If you took the jackets off, you'd be gritty.
Just don't take your jackets off because they were at an outside set. Question probably mostly directed at Josh. Is it too much? Have we just lost too many players? Just moments before we came on to record the podcast on this Monday afternoon, it was also announced that David Montgomery is out for the season, along with, I think, the entire defense. So we're going to need to find ways to score 93 points a game, I believe, in order to have a chance. But Josh, how do you see it?
I think David Montgomery was the final nail in the coffin. I've been saying that the Lions were cooked the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think it was a miracle they pulled it off against the Packers. I thought they had no chance. I was like, we're the most injured team and we have the hardest remaining schedule. I said that about like 2 weeks ago before we played the Packers and the Bills and everybody else. But I think our defense is absolutely obliterated. Now on the offensive side, you lose Montgomery. Yes, you have Gibbs, but you lose a big blocking presence in Montgomery. Gibbs can't take that many reps. You can't just run him into the ground. I think as a Lions fan, we can't have nice things. And I think that I'm just not allowing myself to be hopeful or invested. So
I was texting with my son earlier today and I said, listen, this next Sunday when the Lions are at Chicago, somebody from Chicago will inadvertently roll up on the back of Goff's leg. He'll be out. So now we're in the Hendon Hooker era. And then we'll go to San Francisco where somebody will blindside Gibbs and knock him out. And then we'll enter into the final game at home against Minnesota, and they'll just hold drawings for fans from the stands to come down and get a few snaps in. So you're right. We can't have nice things, but we can have a thorough overview and review of the movie that has America buzzing. I mean, we're talking about it leading off like the Today Show, where they couldn't be more excited than to have this moment.
Defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are now going where no football team has gone before, but where many will want to follow, the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
Guys, good morning. How are you? You guys, today we have something really special. We have an exclusive movie announcement. It is time, and I'm sure y'all been waiting to debut the official trailer. What do you think, Donna? Should we count down?
Yeah, I think that's exciting.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Roll the tape.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to midfield.
From Hallmark and the NFL. Derek Taylor, Kansas City Chiefs.
Holy cow.
We are finalists for the Fan of the Year award.
Comes a love story that's a real Christmas game changer.
Oh, yeah, I know you are.
You do?
Yeah, the Lucky Christmas hat.
We only get to the Super Bowl if someone in our family wears the hat on Christmas.
Okay.
And I'm going to stop the trailer right there because I don't want to spoil the work that Brian has done. So, Josh, I know you probably have your legal pad up to just take some notes here. Brian, the stage is yours. Congratulations once again on your performance in the weekly college football pick'ems. And you now have the floor, sir.
I love how we talk about the Lions-Bills game, and you get to talk for 3 minutes about it, and I don't even get to talk about it. But okay, I can
Wow.
yeah. So
I forgot about that connection.
yeah.
Oh, well, my show.
Josh Allen, best player in the NFL.
All right. We'll do the review and then we can come back to this.
Sure. We can.
Because I don't know how long this review is going to be. I watched the movie. My wife fell asleep during it. So that tells you a little bit of how captivating it was. Now, what I will say is that it could have been better. We've watched a lot of Hallmark movies. Yeah. And for a Hallmark standard, this was not that great.
The acting or the writing?
I think the premise, it could have been any team. It really could have been any team. And this was just, the popularity of the Kansas City Chiefs because of how much they've won. But one, the acting. Donna Kelsey was in it, and I'm sure she's a wonderful mom and she's a great fan. Her acting in it was...
Careful, there are Swifties listening.
Yes, her acting in it was. And so there was like a little bit of Chiefs in there. Miko Harbin, I think I recognized him, and then the rest of them, I wasn't sure who it was. I don't even remember Andy Reid being in it outside of, I think it was at the end of the movie, but the story, I think, was a little heartwarming. Just, you have the front office person for the Chiefs meeting with these fans, this whole family that gathers. They have a fan cave in their store. And like, it was that there were some heartwarming parts to it, but
what was the overall plot line here? I mean, I know that Hallmark's not exactly going to be a murder mystery, but
yes.
What was the general plot line of this?
Just that this family had this hat that Santa had given to the grandpa, and he wore it on their first championship, and then they lost the hat and somehow found it, and someone in the family on Christmas Eve has to wear the hat at the Christmas Eve game. And so that was the premise, that they only won. Yes, the only way they won the championship, the Super Bowl, is if someone in the family wore the hat on Christmas.
Okay, so many questions, and Josh, feel free to jump in with yours, or Paul. I do believe Reed had at least one line, because he was in the trailer somewhere saying, "We're going to need the field back now." That's all I heard.
Well, that was at the end of the movie, when everyone was. They announced who the fan of the year was, and this family won, and so they brought everyone out. And they had lost the hat again. And so then the executive got everyone in the stadium a replica hat. So yeah.
By any chance, was the hat a white hat worn by a referee? Because it seems to be a key component of them winning the Super Bowl. So I wondered if that's kind of what the magic hat was.
So did you see they did a Angels in the Outfield rendition of the kick from last week when the Chiefs kicker hit the upright and it went through, and so they took these Angels that flew in and pulled the upright so that the ball could hit it just at the right place and doink it in. So yeah.
Oh,
either that or a B-Dubs commercial. Okay, so romance is always the theme of every Hallmark movie. Was there any moment where there was a surprising twist, where I didn't see that coming?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Okay.
No, it was so predictable. And that's why, like, if you're scoring this on a 1 to 10, like it was a 5. Like it matched every predictable line, like the cheesiness of the Chiefs port of it, like the players were terrible in their acting. Like it just the love story, the main characters, that was fun. Like that was fine. Like they did a good job. But overall, yeah, no, it was a 5.
So, Brian, you kind of snuck in at the beginning of this part of the conversation the fact that you and your wife watch a fair number of Hallmark movies.
Yes.
So, remove all the specifics. What is the general theme of any Hallmark movie? A Hallmark Christmas movie. There is an arc of the narrative arc that they all kind of follow, right? Like that boy meets girl, either the boy or the girl gets into some kind of chaos, probably with their family. It doesn't, they love each other, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. And then in the end, lo and behold, it works out, right? Isn't that kind of the general thing?
Well, and in this one in particular, like because this executive didn't believe that the family had to wear the hat, it almost ruined the whole relationship. And that's like the cheesiness. You're like, are you kidding me? Like that's what it is. It's because he doesn't believe that the hat has magic. Yeah.
Is this a member
that's the trajectory.
Like one of
It
the
is Frosty the Snowman. It's totally
is.
Frosty the Snowman.
It is. But that's Hallmark's, flavor to take something, just kind of remake it over and over and over again. But there's plenty of great Hallmark movies and great Hallmark movies that are worth watching. This one, I'm not sure I would put on that list. My mom wouldn't DVR it.
I'm not sure I've heard the phrase great Hallmark movie before. So this is a real interesting moment. Josh, do you have any questions for Brian about the movie?
I think the bigger question is, why do you watch other Hallmark movies? Not this one. I understand there was a bet involved, so that's how it goes.
Josh, are you married?
No.
Okay, so I watch Hallmark movies with my wife because it's a way she watches football with me. We watched the Bills demolish the Lions yesterday together, and then we watched a Hallmark movie afterwards. We didn't really, but it wouldn't have surprised me if we did. So it's spending time with my wife.
I get that because I know that if my wife and I sit down to watch a movie together, the odds of Bobby falling asleep in the first 15 to 20 minutes are really good. And then I can change the channel to whatever I really want to watch. And she doesn't know the difference, but I get credit for watching a movie with her, which means she'll probably watch football with me later, right? I get that. I totally get that.
My problem is once I start it, I want to finish it. So my wife generally half hour, 40 minutes in has fallen asleep, and I have an extra 45 minutes. And I'm like, I'm already vested into this. I know the outcomes, but all right, I'm going to finish it. That happened the other night.
I can appreciate that.
So by way of spoilers then, Brian, at the end of Touchdown, a Chiefs Love Story or whatever it's called, do they win the Super Bowl yet again? And can they use
that wasn't a part of it. They
they
had won the previous year.
But they got the magic hat, so I thought it would lead to that being no, I don't get
it. Because they lost the hat again.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I think it's an unwritten story of whether or not they needed the hat to really win.
Somebody's got to keep track of this hat.
It's because they need to set it up for a sequel. That's what they're
They
doing.
need a hat coach. Yes. Did it lend itself at the end to a cliffhanger / sequel like Hunger Games might?
No.
No. Okay. Well, hey. Okay. So at the end, if you're Siskel and Ebert, we got thumbs up or thumbs down. You don't have there's no in between. So which way?
Yeah, no, thumbs down. Thumbs down.
All right. Well, that's a fascinating. I'm so glad that I did not finish in the basement of the prediction contest. And thank you for doing the hard work on behalf of all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, let's move into our holy discontent as we continue on this season finale.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
I've already done mine. No college football commissioner equals portal disaster. Paul, yours.
Okay, so my holy discontent is, hypothetically speaking, if your favorite college football program, the one that you follow fanatically, makes the first 12-team CFP and they're going to have a home playoff game. So they decide that they're going to do a pre-sale to all their season ticket holders, even though they're going to sell out 105,000 seats like in the drop of a hat, but they still decide they need to do a pre-sale to season ticket holders. And they decide that the code that you need to go online and get in on the pre-sale is OSUFB. And imagine if that code leaks over X or Instagram or however to a bunch of fans from your opponent. So now you have this great opportunity to have the first home night playoff game ever in the history of your school. And 30,000 bright orange Tennessee fans have bought tickets to come to that game.
Because the code let you into the pre-sale.
The code let you into the pre-sale that was supposed to be just for season ticket holders. So instead of doing the simple thing, which is saying you have to like buy it through your account with OSU football or whatever, they just created a little code that if you have the code, you can get into the pre-sale. And it was really incredibly elusive code, OSUFB, right? So it's just been this crazy thing. So now they're expecting 75,000 Ohio State fans and 30,000 Tennessee fans at the game on Saturday night. And people are livid because now all these OSU fans that wanted to buy tickets are now going to go have to buy them from scalpers because so many of them got bought up in the pre-sale. Because when they went live to the general public, they were sold out in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that explains what I think maybe you sent it to me or somebody else did, which was the Buckeye athletic program sent out social media messages saying, please don't share your code.
Yeah, that's going to help. Wait, what happens if I share? Yeah, totally. So anyways, a little frustrated. I'm sure it'll still be great. I'm sure the experience will still be great. I'm sure it'll be a good game because I think Ohio State, Tennessee probably is going to be the best of all of the first round CFP playoff games, but little frustrated on behalf of my OSU tribe that they gave away a third of the tickets.
That is a self-inflicted injury right there. Josh Gilmer, what's your holy discontent?
Well, first the Lions, but besides the Lions, Ashton Genty, he should have won, and I stand by that. So sad thing to see, but how it goes.
All right, I'm fine with Hunter. Brian Sharpe.
Yeah, I think I have a holiest discontentment with the MVP race. So for NFL, and some of it is last year, Josh Allen had all the statistics, but yet Lamar Jackson won.
Yep.
And some of it was because his team just did way better. So now the Bills are doing better and he doesn't have the statistics. And now you have people are like, oh, but he's not as good as he was last year. And so it's just, there's this moving target of what the MVP really is outside of a popularity contest. And it's what the talking heads, the fact that Rex Ryan is one of the main drivers of the Josh Allen MVP race is like, this shows you how weird the MVP voting is, how weird it is for who wins the MVP versus not. And this is a quarterback. Can we just call it best quarterback in the league? Like, it's not
Yes.
really the MVP. It's actually just the best quarterback. And it's not really even the best quarterback. It's who the talking heads say are the best quarterback. Now, Josh has a lot of a lot of people that are saying he's the MVP, but man, look at what he's done statistically and look at what his team's doing and look what he's doing on the field. Like, it's pretty remarkable what he's doing. And Jared Goff, I mean, yesterday, 5 touchdowns, 500 yards almost passing. Like, he's doing awesome things too, but I don't know how we get the MVP actually to have a criteria for it versus just whatever the talking heads think.
Yeah. Good point. And he was fantastic in that game. I mean, Goff threw for more yards, but a lot of them were desperation yards. So, and we didn't have any running backs left, which leads me, by the way, to this week's useless stat of the week.
Oh, people can come up with statistics to prove anything. 40% of all people know that.
Here we go. This week's useless stat. The Lions now, this season, have won a game in which Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions and lost a game in which he threw 5 touchdown passes.
That's great.
My goodness. We're setting records. We're setting records in all different varieties. Paul, we're running a little bit long, so I'm going to move us right ahead to our season finale 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay, well, it is good to have this season finale kind of wrap up. We take a little break here for the Christmas holiday. I appreciate you having our schedule run that way, Bill. I do want to let Josh know that if we had had time to talk about that guy, I was going to talk about Ashton Genty as the guy who won the Maxwell Award and the Heisman fan vote, but didn't actually win the Heisman and yada, yada, and all of that stuff. So it's all in there. And last week, I was just talking about how much I appreciated the opportunity to be a part of this. But what I want us to do just now at the end of the season as we head towards Christmas is take a moment and pause and remember the point of this season that we're entering into, we're now 15 days into this Advent season. Every year I have a little ritual that I do on my own, usually the week after Thanksgiving, to kind of help me not miss it. Right. And so what I'd like for us to do is take 1 minute and 21 seconds and listen to one of my mentors and one of my spiritual gurus that has impacted me incredibly throughout the years, as he takes 1 minute and 21 seconds to remind all of us the posture, the perspective, the things we should be leaning into during the Christmas season.
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
There you go. So I don't know what it's going to take for you between now, when we're recording this, when you listen to it, and Christmas Eve. I don't know what it's going to take for you to carve out some time to lean in to why, so that you don't miss it. And I just want to encourage all of us to whatever that is, whether it is taking a few minutes to watch the Charlie Brown Christmas special, or there's a special Advent Devo that you do, or there's a special service, Christmas service that you're going to go to. And those things are important. Even if you think you don't have the time for those things, make the time, because none of us want to miss the season. It's too important. We want to celebrate our Savior, and I just want to challenge all of us with that as we head into these last few weeks leading up to Christmas.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good stuff. A very important reminder. And we are so thankful for all of you being with us throughout the year. We will take a little hiatus here. Holidays, family time, worship time, celebration of joy of the greatest gift that mankind has ever known. And we'll be back with you in January. Josh, thank you so much. Congratulations on finishing the semester. And Brian, congrats to you also on your movie review. I think you have a future in movie reviews, exclusive to the Hallmark category. So,
and the Bills win. Congrats on the Bills win. That was epic.
Yeah, I'm not going there, but they were pretty good, and unstoppable would be the word that I was using frequently in the stands. So, Paul, enjoy your new surroundings wherever you happen to be, and thanks for all your work throughout the season on this podcast. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll talk to you in the Happy New Year.